guys, welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm your host David, joined today by Ross.
Hello.
Stuart, who's guest starred on the channel.
Hello.
And today we're bringing you our inaugural podcast for your viewing and listening pleasure. So we just wanted to start this podcast out today by just discussing a few points about, how we sort of enjoy the hobby, got into the hobby. But more importantly, we want to give you guys a more sort of personal flavour into, ourselves here on the channel. This is also the first podcast that we have ever done, so we do need to explain to you guys we're all Scottish.
Yep.
And with that meaning, our accents can be quite harsh at times, people may struggle to understand us, and plus we're not only just Scottish, we're all Glaswegians, which means we do have a depth to our accents. So guys, bear with us, but yeah, we'll try our best to speak as slowly and clearly as possible.
That's going to be tough for me.
It'll be very tough for you, Stuart. But we're just going to crack on, guys, and we've got a few things we want to talk about today, a few things to discuss. And I will say throughout this video as well, guys, if you have anything that you feel you want to add to these discussion points, just put them in the comments down below. On the channel here, we're always doing our best to respond to you guys, and we really appreciate the feedback and engaging with you guys as much as we can. So I think what we're going to do is go around the table, and we'll probably start these discussion points with Ross. Yep. Then on to Stuart, then on to myself. But we want to start talking firstly about how did we all get into Warhammer. So Ross, tell us a bit about it. How did you get into the hobby?
So yeah, good one to start on. How did you start this one? I started. So my first introduction was actually Ewan, who was on the channel way back when. He guest starred once or twice. And I've known Ewan for a very, very long time, and he was like, oh yeah, there's this game called Warhammer. Didn't have a clue what he was on about. Showed me a magazine. I was like, okay.
What magazine was that, Ross?
It was White Dwarf. I think that one, yeah.
Oh, I remember the magazine.
You remember that? I think it's still going. And I was like, I don't get into this, but okay. And then I think it was my parents actually got me, it was Astra Militarum, or then Imperial Guard Sentinel. No idea what it was. I was like, what is this? And then I went into the store and I was like, oh, some of these look cool. Yeah. What's this? Dark Elder? And I saw these. I don't know what words I can use to describe Dark Elder. Hopefully we've all had an experience.
You should maybe keep some of those words to yourself.
Yeah. There's ways to describe them. So I was like, and I didn't want to say those words are the reasons why. I was like, these guys seem cool, but they did seem cool. And I was like, I definitely like these. I'm gonna go for them. No one told me when this was roughly about 2004, the state of what Dark Elder were in. Dark Elder were a tricky faction to play. So I got a bunch of starting units, your standard raider, warriors, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, they were also in the starting box as well.
I was about to say that. Were they not with Black Templars?
I don't know if it was Black Templars specifically. It was certainly Marines.
Yeah.
But I think you could play them just about anyway. Don't know if it was.
I think the cover box had Black Templars.
Yes, for that whole edition it was Black Templars.
Yeah.
It was the rulebook had it and also the starting box. And so that gave me a great access to get a starting force and everything. But boy, that was a tough faction to play in general, but it allowed me to really get into it. Absolutely loved Dark Elder, thought they were one of the coolest ones. Played them for quite a while, and then I sort of moved on to collected. Then I just went crazy. I just got way too many forces, all of them evil. All of them evil. None of the good. I'm trying to think of a time. I think it wasn't until the channel I actually started playing anything that we could consider good within the 40k universe, which is a bit ambiguous in itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that was Admech, but then I went into like Chaos, Orcs, etc. But it was really sort of, Ewan was the sort of person who got me into it first, and I played plenty of games with him. I think my dad even built me a board.
I remember that board.
Oh, right, yeah.
I remember that board.
You remember that board?
Oh god,
my dad built me that, and we played at home quite a lot with that. And but Dark Elder's always been sort of I absolutely love Dark Elder. I actually got back so I got off the hobby about 2006, and then got back into around 2011, and then Dark Elder got all these new models. So I've got a bunch of Dark Elder. I've got a lot of Dark Elder lying about. Dark Elder are a big love of mine, and that was sort of my first army that I ever got into. And yeah, just because they're pretty cool guys, or so. That's about the best description I can do for Dark Elder that I think is allowed.
Yeah, I think as well. I actually remember. I remember your board. Just to go back a couple of points. I remember that board.
It was made for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, was it not tiered?
It was tiered as well.
It was tiered.
Yeah,
it was tiered.
And I think I remember looking at it because I back in the day. Let's be honest, we used to play on the floor. You'd
Yeah,
play
well,
on
we
the
were only about 14.
Yeah,
13,
Warhammer Fantasy.
13, 14.
You'd play on the carpet. You'd have your movement trays, or you'd have all your units everywhere, all unpainted.
All unpainted.
Nothing was
Oh, yeah.
painted.
Yeah.
And it was a luxury if you can go to your local hobby store and use their tables and use their
Yep.
armies. And then lastly, you pointed out, I actually remember, Ross, maybe a few years back, I'm sure that Sentinel of yours
Yes.
is still in its packaging on
It
Bill.
is still in its packaging. That Sentinel. So yeah, that reappeared. Why did it reappear? I think we were going through my Bix box from 2005.
Would that be worth something?
No, it's very.
Tell us in the comments down below if it's worth something.
Yeah, if it's worth something, let me know. But it's still in the box. It's metal, and I think it was we were looking into an Astra army, and I was like, I don't want to really start with that one. That one's in the packaging, still there. Gonna keep that one, but yeah, still got it somewhere
Yeah.
in my very very old Bix box, that big red box that's fallen apart.
I think we'll definitely revisit your Dark Elder stories very shortly.
Oh, there's plenty.
Or soon, because
There's a hilarious battle to tell.
they're an infamous army. But yeah, no, for us, thanks for sharing. I think, yeah, it's interesting that you only played evil armies until you decided to come to the channel, and then you're now probably being forced to play good armies.
What ones do I actually play very much?
Yeah, when you play good armies, it's rare.
It's rare. I mainly play Necron's Chaos, and
You play more neutral armies.
I wouldn't consider Chaos neutral.
No, but like Necrons are neutral.
That is up for major debate. That is a discussion in itself. Necrons are neutral. I mean,
I don't think any. I think Elder's the most neutral, really.
Depends which part of the Elder.
Yeah.
Right,
No,
that's
if
a
we go
discussion
the
for
goody-
another time.
If this is the
So-
goody two shoes Elder, then maybe then.
Right, okay, yeah. We'll save that for a podcast in itself then. Let's just revisit Dark Elder and good armies in its entirety.
Right, okay.
Okay, thanks, Ross. So Stuart, tell us a little bit about your introduction to the hobby, and share some memories.
I'm terrible at this point because you're asking me to revise. I can remember the first ever models I've got. I don't have them anymore. If I remember correctly, I think it was my mum bought me them because I went into the Games Workshop, had no clue. I think this is before I knew yous were playing it.
Uh-huh.
Oh no, this is before I even met you.
It's before you met me.
Yeah, before I met you, and it was before I knew Ross was playing it.
Even though we've known each other since
Yes.
we were about 6 years
Yeah,
old.
Just to give some quick context, for those who won't know this, Stuart has been a friend with Ross longer than I have been friends with either of them.
I think that's something we maybe should have said about how we actually know each
Yes,
other.
exactly.
Oh,
We'll
yeah,
come to
well,
that.
you know,
We'll come to that.
There's
But
we have a long history.
we can have our origin story later.
Yeah.
But I know what was it? It was, I think it was my mum bought me or my dad, and it was basically a box of Sisters of Battle.
Right.
Wow.
The one I can't remember what they're called. The ones with the jetpacks.
Seraphim?
Seraphim.
Yeah.
It was probably
Very
them.
topical.
But I had no clue what they were, and not a clue what they were. And I just went, they look cool. Bought them. Well, mum bought me them, and then I just stood and looked at the box for ages because I was like, "Oh wait, they're in parts."
What do I do with this?
As a child, you're thinking, as a toy, it's like it's a model. You got to build it and glue it. It's like didn't know that bit of it.
I'm getting the image. Your mum hands you the box, and you're looking at her saying, "This doesn't fit in the disc tray in my PlayStation 2."
He was probably like, "You're an idiot."
Were they metal?
Oh no, this is before PlayStation 2.
Alright.
It was metal.
It was
They were
metal, so you got like quite a heavy box. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
cool, why are they in parts?
Oh yeah, they were in parts. I think most of it. Like, yeah, I think like, it was the jetpacks. If I remember correctly, they weren't attached, but I think the rest of the models actually. I think they were actually connected
Yeah, I
because
think
the
most of
metal
the model was the same. It was
Yeah,
the jetpack and the base.
metal models those days were pretty much they kept you the whole base and the whole full model was the same. It was just the peripherals that would add
I think
on.
it was
they
the
kept
arms they mainly did.
them.
for
Yeah,
it.
they kept like that. But that was my first models. I think when I first got fully into it was. I don't know. I think I was with you. I do remember that, and it was
When he's saying you, he's referring to Ross.
Ross.
there.
Sorry, Ross.
yeah.
Ross.
Pointing doesn't help.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, Stuart.
For the audio. But I think it was with East Bride. It was East Bride Games Workshop, and I didn't know how to. I had no clue what I was doing, and I think it was one of the guys from Games Workshop said, "Oh, what do you like?" And I was like, I know, and you know, so oh look, big massive armoured people. We went, Space Marines, cool, right? You can take them. And then they went, oh, the coolest one we know right now, and it was probably obviously the one that nobody was going for was Black Templar at the time.
Yeah, I don't think many people did go for them.
Yeah, I don't think they were going that, and they were basically showing me how to paint them, which I was god awful at. And then just got to play, I think it was their training maps.
Yeah, so East Kilbride was a place in Scotland, by the way, close to where we all lived, in Glasgow. It was a very small shop.
Tiny.
Very small, but they
Tiny.
did have beginner tables and learner tables to help us introduce ourselves to the hobby.
Fun fact on that one, from when we started, they had like a shopping centre and then there was one store and we all went to that one. They actually closed it down several years ago. And then they reopened it again in the store right next to it, which tears my heart apart. It's nice that they have it again, but it's one store down from the original store. And I'm like, how close were you to getting that one? It would have been glorious to go back after nearly a decade.
Is it a smaller store?
It's about the same size.
It's about the same size. But
I know,
great store though, I've been there quite a few times.
I remember they showed me the transfers when I first started with Black Templar, and I was like, I have no, and I was like, oh, is it like your waterproof tattoos and stuff? I was like, that's not exactly how that works.
That's not how it goes.
I don't know how many I even bought of them. I think I bought like 2 packs of them, and then just started messing about with them. I know I had a bike army. I do remember having a bike army of Black Templar, which I don't think they really did.
I think it's when we were a lot younger, we were probably buying units from all different armies and just meshing them together, because at that age you're thinking, I'll just pick whoever looks cool.
I remember they told me the rule, and I had no clue why they were telling me this, because I had no clue at the time. That rule was it when one of your guys takes a wound, he gets to move forward like 3 inches.
I remember that.
It was always like they
With
would
Black
always
Templar?
they would always advance. They would always advance no matter how many wounds they took.
Correct us if I'm wrong, but that may be about 5th or 6th edition, but I remember something about that with Black Templars. They get closer to you the more damage you're dealing. Alright, interesting. Well, move on to myself. I definitely got into the hobby completely separate of these two. I got into the hobby not through Warhammer.
Warhammer?
So I got into the hobby through Napoleonic model sets.
Right, okay.
The wee tiny millimeter sets, and it was a starter set my uncle used to collect, and I remember he would share with me all these sort of models, Napoleon stuff, Roman stuff.
I think for context we've just got to explain your love for Napoleon.
Okay, yes, okay.
And the picture in your room.
So I'll take a quick second.
This is a bigger deep dive.
Yeah, that's a big deep dive.
So we could go into a separate podcast, but yes, my hero is Napoleon. I do have above my computer a portrait of Napoleon. I have all his autobiographies. I have a Napoleon pocket watch. I have a Napoleon hat. If I ever have a kid, it will be called Napoleon. No, Napoleon. No, I'm kidding on.
I feel sorry for that child.
To give you context there, that era and time is something I'm passionate about. But however, back to the story.
Yep.
So I was introduced to that, and I remember distinctly a high school friend of mine, obviously won't name names and stuff like that, but high school friend of mine, primary school friend of mine at the time it was, had these models which I didn't quite understand. They looked bulky, big shoulder pads, probably 2nd edition Space Marines if I'm being honest. And it was a Space Oaf army. And then I remember going to another family member's house, a cousin of mine, and that exact army was there, all painted, and he let me use it, let me play it. After then, we were basically just brought to East Kilbride's store, and instantly I said, Mum and Dad, can you get your wallet out and buy me a Space Oaf army?
Yep, spend some money.
So a Space Oaf army was my first ever official army. However, the first model I ever bought, and again completely weird, was a unit of Skaven.
What?
Skaven?
Yep, that's every friend of mine who looked at me says, why? Because I had this weird idea that I was going to integrate Skaven into my Space Oaf army. It didn't happen.
No.
Not at all. But it was part of the plan. From there, I would start playing more models, more games in East Kilbride, and I kind of then met Ross and a few other people in that group, and started playing Warhammer with you guys, I guess. I will say that when it comes to armies, I totally agree with Ross. I definitely collected way more armies than I should have back in the day. But after Space Wolves were moved one side, I think my affinity for Grey Knights and Necrons became the two number one armies I would ever play. And we'll come on to the memories section very, very soon. But yeah, that got us into the hobby, was very passionate about it, and then I guess each stepping stone from there kind of moved on to the channel, which is where we are today. So that brings on really nicely to, we're talking about armies. Guys, I want to discuss what is your favourite army and why. So, Ross, you've
take a breath.
already gave a massive hint, Ross, about that already.
Well, yeah, yes, I'm gonna say it's Dark Elder, absolutely. Especially once they got their new models. So when I first got Dark Elder, they were, quite an old force. I say they're an old force. They're probably relatively new in some sense, but they had their forces and they didn't age so well. So when I ended, they were probably a little bit older. And then they redid I think the entire Dark Elder line, and I want to say roughly between 2008 2009. I can't remember the year. It was when I was out the hobby, so it was when I was studying and everything. So when I came back into it, I was like, "Are you kidding me? These models are glorious." Dark Elder improved massively. The Raiders were cool. The Cabalite Warriors I absolutely love.
Cavalry Wars are immense.
The Cabalite Wars, they just look absolutely stunning. They may not be like, you see a lot more modern models, keep in mind the range is now about 10 years old, in more dynamic poses, but they're still really beautiful models for their time. A lot of really cool details, and I just absolutely loved them. So when I came back into the hobby, I instantly went back to Dark Elder. And the unfortunate thing is, I didn't buy, how can I put this, I didn't buy proper packaging for them. And Dark Elder, as was the tabletop, when transporting them, they're not the most durable models. So my Dark Elder force, especially my Raiders, are in a bit of a worse for wear condition, but I absolutely loved Dark Elder. I loved how they played, I loved being very quick, I loved how they were a bit more difficult to play, and the tricks you had to do. So you had a lot of armies back then that worked instead of shooting and everything, but Dark Elder, the amount of games I played where, DJ, who had been on the channel as well, we had a massive feud. I remember me and him, he played a lot of Raven Guards?
It was Raven Guard he played, yeah.
And we'd play multiplayer games and it would just be me and him just like instantly lock and attack each other, and it'd be my Raiders zooming around, but obviously he had jetpacks, he was chasing after them. Absolutely loved them, and they just didn't work quite like any other army for its time, I'd say, and I'd still say now they do not work. I mean, they've even got their 3 sort of faction force codex they've got, so even in the modern one they don't work the same. So I would probably say Dark Elder is my favourite, but don't get me wrong, Chaos has a huge, Chaos was the force I played during the Eye of Terror campaign.
What a campaign that was. And you got the option for Lost and Damned, and it wasn't an army they really brought anything out for. They went, cool, you can take parts of Astra Militarum, you can take parts of this, but you could have plague zombies, and they brought out the Typhus model then. And I was like, this model is amazing. I can have zombies in an environment where it's like everyone's got guns, everyone's got this. I brought zombies, and people are like, why are you bringing zombies? I was like, because I can. And yeah, exactly. So I absolutely loved bringing zombies. Lost and Damned I thought was absolutely fantastic army. If there was an army I wish was back, this sort of traitor guard army, could be organised but not totally, I would be totally game for that. And certainly during the Eye of Terror campaign I played them a lot, and I've great memories of those ones as well. So it's very hard. Of course it's going to be probably 2 of the most evil armies, because we can't doubt that Chaos has to be evil. And Dark Elder, who you could say that they're bringing pain for survival reasons, but no, it's they're pretty evil. Absolutely love those 2 forces, and still playing Chaos. Need to work on those Dark Elder, but they're coming.
I'm working on Chaos at the moment, but absolutely those 2 forces, just so many memories. Absolutely love them.
Yeah, I think from your initial introduction to the podcast, we all knew it was going to be Dark Elder.
It's going to be Dark Elder. I mean, yep. you knew that answer.
I think you're not alone in the whole fragility of the models.
Yep.
I think any Dark Elder player there probably knows your pain.
Yeah, if you played them, I'd say before 8th edition, you'd probably know pain. Now I've not actually played Dark Elder in 8th edition. But one thing I would note, and I believe, quote me if I'm wrong, in Chapter Approved 2018, they were the only codex that did not get a points change. And except for a Forge World model, that's because the codex may not be perfect, but it's probably the most perfect Dark Elder I think has had, because in the past they've had a rough time, and now this is just making me desperate to get them back, because I think this is one of the brightest times to be a Dark Elder player. and I haven't got them painted, and the Raiders are in horrible bits. So yeah, no, this is making me definitely. I've got too many painting projects on. Don't do this
It's just
to me.
bringing back your passion.
Absolutely.
So, Stuart, what about yourself? Tell us about your favourite army and what attracts you to that army.
Oh, it's Imperial Guard. I know they're Astra Militarum, right? I get it, but I always just know them as Imperial Guard.
You're
I always
well allowed.
I always call them Imperial Guard, even
There's
though
many people who agree with you.
even
on
though
this one.
the Codex says Astra Militarum, it's like no, it's Imperial Guard, right? Just calm down. But no, I just like the kind of the range of like scope that they have. You know, you've got a lot of infantry. You basically throwing dice by numbers. Like you got like you're carrying troops of infantry. You can just throw so many dice just by lasguns constantly. And you got like huge tanks, cool weaponry. It was just all really interesting, very varied. A wee bit complicated if you don't know how to get into the hobby at first. Like again, Intro to Space Marine is the best. That's why I still really like Black Temper, just because that was like the first one I ever got interested
Yeah,
in. And
good army start.
I'm really hoping they update Black Temper like soon, very soon.
Well, let me not give any spoilers, but I can probably guarantee it's on the cards.
It better be. It better be.
Well, when none of their special characters have appeared anywhere in some of the stuff, and we don't know about the future, we do not know. Yeah, I think there's something planned. I have a few theories on that, but I won't discuss it. Yeah, I think you'll be seeing something soon.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
I think.
Imperial Guard still cool. The models look fantastic, even though I don't know the changes for like the tanks. I think the tanks have always really remained the same, really. I
Well,
don't
it's
think
been
they've
pretty close.
I remember when
really
you first
re-updated
saw
them.
like a Baneblade. I remember your reaction.
God, the Baneblade, that was so cool. That was unbelievably cool. I was like, how many guns? How many guns does that thing got? Okay, I don't need an army. I can just use that and destroy anything there.
Maybe you should look into orcs. If you like lots of guns.
I don't know why. I'm not fascinated by orcs at all. I think they're cool and they're funny. I don't know why. I'm just not I don't think it's a serious army. That's bad that people get annoyed about that, but I just don't find it
There's something to be
my
said.
army to play.
There's something to be said about, I say this with a lot of fantasy and environment ones, is that to be able to see if there's humans in it, to be able to see how they react and work in fantasy environments and futurist and sci-fi, to play them, to see humans' reaction, how they work versus aliens and things. So it's very interesting to see Astra Militarum as a military force against the massive dangers of the universe. So that's what I think about Astra Militarum. Pretty cool to see them on that side. Don't know if you agree on that. I know you like 1,000,000 tanks.
Oh yeah,
I know you're like,
but
bring me the tanks.
I do like the art. I do like the actual infantry. Like I think that's the problem with Imperial Guard these days, that a lot of people just take the tanks because the tanks are disgusting. They are absolutely disgusting when they're used. Whereas I don't think the infantry get a lot of kind of praise for them all. Like I don't think a lot of people use the Catachan regiments.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I
They're
think
very they're not used that much. I don't even know if this. I've only just got into this edition.
maybe with the new Rambo film coming out, it might cause a resurgence in Catachan murders.
No, they'll change Iron Hand Strachan to look like Sylvester Stallone, guaranteed.
I bet that's what the model's based off of. He will be based off of that.
The Catachan Regiment rule is actually really good, but ironically I think and it makes them strength 4, but I think it's actually people take them because it makes the tanks really good, which is a bit of a weird one for me when it comes to Catachan. I feel it should buff the infantry a little bit more. It makes them strength 4, but I feel they should have more hit and run infantry tactics.
I mean, the Ratlings are more hit and run now, like because they're snipers. They can shoot and retreat and then shoot again, or no, they can retreat and shoot.
I think they can move and shoot, and don't quote me with the rules, guys. But I remember Ratlings, when you looked at them compared to snipers, there was a really strong shout for taking Ratlings.
I think it's because they were cheap. They could move in a way.
Yeah,
and they did sniper things.
Duck and dive. All right, cool. Well, I think for me, to answer the question of what my favourite army is, Ross is looking at me with a
Sorry,
huge
you just said
grin.
dip and dive. I just wanted to quote,
There we go.
dodge, dip, dive, and dodge. Just want to quote dodgeball.
I think for me, I don't know. I think my favourite army's probably changed. It changes probably year on year.
I knew you were going to say that,
Yeah.
David.
It's
The amount of
Skaven. It's
army-
Skaven.
Yeah.
Well, the Skaven. Oh,
I'll
goodness,
keep it-
your
I'll-
Skaven army, David.
I'll keep it to 40k, but yes, my Skaven army was filthy.
You and Thankful. I've seen you win a 6,000 point game using nearly Thankful alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like.
I'm well aware.
Oh, yeah,
It was a good day.
You were there.
I think other players just sat down and let them roll some dice.
Yep, it was also for your birthday, so it was appropriate.
Yeah. Anyway, right, we won't talk
No.
about that. But I think for me, I think my favourite army changes all the time. It depends probably how many times a year I get to use Magnus. Is how if I'm using him a lot, he's probably my favourite. However, if I was to look at it historically in 40k, my favourite army is probably going to have to be Necrons. And
Really?
yeah, I know you say it was a surprise, but Necrons. So I'm going to say this in channel. Ross uses Necrons more than I do,
Yes.
but I was using Necrons before you did.
Yes.
But I would say the Necrons is probably my favourite army for the one simple fact that I got really into Necrons when they first came out. Like, I don't mean the old metal models, I mean when they actually redone Necrons and went, here's plastic kits. And I remember falling in love with the army because of its simplicity, but it was always lacking a characterization to the army. It didn't have a feel like you had your own uniqueness to it. And then I remember when they introduced all the named characters, and I instantly just fell back in love with the army, and I remember playing them for months on end without wanting to play anything else. And I think it probably ties in as well to why it's my favourite army is because it has my favourite wargaming memory attached to it,
Okay.
which was an epic battle with your Dark Elder.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah,
Jeez.
because of that battle, that always stick with me. And that was not a non-channel battle, I should mention, so don't try and look it up. It wasn't there. It was before the channel, but we had an epic end-to-end chunk out each other battle, Dark Elder versus Necrons, and that was a whole bunch of fun. But yeah, for me it changes year on year, but it was the fact I was losing something with Necrons when I was younger. There wasn't any characterization, and the day they brought the characters in and the happiness I had when they'd done that, I think that memory sticks for me, and that's why it'll always probably be my favourite army.
It's very interesting you say that, David, because many people were not happy that they brought a bit more characterization to Necrons. They like this idea of them being ruthless, automatons with no feeling, no nothing. So to change the lore to reflect that and bring it, I think it's actually stronger for it as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot better for it. It makes it feel a bit more personal, and especially in this edition where special characters matter a lot, and just lore-wise, it brings a lot more than these faceless automatons appear. It's harder to write for and imagine in some way, but it's just interesting to say that when there's many people who'd maybe disagree with you on that.
Yeah. Also, just a quick point to raise. That's me saying 40k. My favourite army, I would say in all of Warhammer,
All right.
is actually Sons of Horus.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
30k.
Because I'm a massive Horus fan. I'm a massive Magnus fan, and I always will be. But he did nothing wrong.
Wait. So
Horus did something horribly wrong,
Pre-
and I can go along with that.
Pre-Chaos Horus or Horus?
No, definitely Chaos Horus. He was more fun.
Definitely care.
He got more stuff done. He was more enjoyable. But yeah, no, Necrons are my favourite. You're always going to be between Necrons and Thousand Suns, realistically, in 40k. It just depends how I'm feeling that season.
If you fancy Magnus to come out and wreck me for a day.
I just don't see the point in playing Thousand Suns without using the most beautiful model in all of 40k. I
It's
don't
a
see
glorious
it.
model. Look
Yeah.
at those wings.
Yeah, those wings are incredible.
I know a lot of people made fun of his nipple horns to begin with, but you know what? He's rocking them.
When you got wings like that and hair that flows like that, you ain't looking anywhere else.
You're not looking
I think I need to give you to a room with Magnus.
Right, guys, so we'll move on to our next discussion point. And it's pretty much kind of going to go off Warhammer a little bit here. So we've talked for a good half an hour about, the hobby itself, how we get in it, our favourite armies. But as hobbyists, we don't just play Warhammer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, guys, we play other games.
No.
I know. We're allowed to play other games. So it's always a nice wee break to kind of, what other hobby tabletop games, we'll keep it on tabletop, guys, right?
Right, okay.
But what other sort of tabletop games do you play outside of Warhammer that you tend to enjoy? Ross, take it away.
Yeah, just caveat on we'll keep it to tabletop, so if we mentioned especially video games,
It's a long time.
that is a long
Long.
discussion for another time, so we're going to stay off that one. Tabletop, it's going to be, at the moment, so I only learned about this game probably 2-3 years ago through, again, DJ, because he plays
I know what it is.
We know
You already know what it is.
We know what it is
Right,
now.
so me and Stuart have to change our answers now.
yeah.
So it's not the same answer 3 times.
Well, that's why, I got to go first, so
Okay.
I get to discuss it. I learned it from DJ, and it is a game called Kingdom Death. What is Kingdom Death? It is, I don't know, I want to say it's like Dark Souls, which many people played Kingdom Death go, no it isn't, and Dark Souls already has a board game. But basically you have like a group of survivors, and you work cooperatively, usually as 4 players, and maybe with someone who's leading you through it, and you have to like kill sort of these big creatures. So it begins with, you know, just like this white lion, you need to kill it, harvest its resource, and then build a community and use those resources to build up. But you work cooperatively over this one, bringing down these big monsters, etc. It's what happens afterwards. So you kill that monster and you're like, yeah, we've got resources and things, and then all the depressing things happen. The storyline is dark, you don't know what's going to happen, which is, you know, the first decision you've got to choose is really, what do we do with our dead? Do we bury them or do we become cannibals? There is horrific consequences to you as a group making your decisions, and there's also advantages as well. And I like cooperative games and building this campaign to it.
It is a very adult game.
It's a very adult game.
It's a graphic game to play. It's very expensive, but it's a graphic game to play.
The way I look at it is, I think Dark Souls is a really good way to describe it, because you are constantly on the back foot.
Yep.
But it's like Dark Souls meets sort of Settlers of Catan.
Yes.
I would disagree. I would say it's Monster Hunter with like a civilization.
Well, that's the Settlers of Catan
mechanic.
part. It's you're
I never played Settlers of Catan.
You're building a sort of civilization, because there's an element of settlement building to the game. Building a community, building other characters to play, etc., and building a community so you can get extra abilities and weapons. It's dark, twisted, but it's kind of like a crossover between, you could say Monster Hunter as well, those two are games. But
the one thing to mention this is, you know, so I mentioned is White Lion, that's what you fight. That's fine, and all. Some of the monsters you fight in it are absolutely wild. I know Dark Souls has some wild stuff you fight, but these are some of, I don't know how many I can describe, because they're some of the darkest twisted creatures I've ever seen. Slenderman is there, because I don't know how that one worked, but he's there. And he's probably one of the more reasonable and less scary of the lot. There's some kind of giant moon thing. We've fought very few of the monsters, because I've not even got that far in this game, because we keep failing.
It's a long game.
It's a long game.
A dark delve into a fantasy imagination and bringing out the machinations of those weird and wonderful things, creating it into a model, and then making you fight it.
Nightmare fuel. It's just nightmare fuel. That's all.
Some of them are absolute. There's a goat that opens up and devours you through its stomach, and if it screams, you go and say it killed me instantly once by screaming in my face. Which was, you know, as we began, it just went, first move, scream, you've gone insane. Great, I'm kind of done there. But it's this sort of aspect of horrific creatures that I've still not fought yet, but I really want to, working cooperatively, and I quite like cooperative games. I like these sort of campaign ones. One day we'll get to it. I don't think we could do it in the channel. It's a little bit, it's a little bit long and a little bit harsh.
It's a challenge.
But I'd encourage anyone, you know, if you want to see some really dark, weird creatures, go and have a look at the sort of website for it, and have a look at them, because they are stunning. If there's any YouTube stuff that we've seen on it, is fantastic. A really good game. If you want to play cooperatively, face some big scary monsters, and have a huge campaign going forward, it is a fantastic game to play. Love it. Love it dearly.
Also, I'd just like to add, it's funny because my favourite point was because I rolled low, and Pierce's character got eaten by grass.
Yeah, I got eaten by grass. Yeah. The game turned the grass into killer grass and ate me.
I once went on a hunt and broke my leg on the way there. There was no chance I was going to survive a hunt with a broken leg, and I did not. So many unfortunate things can happen.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Pierce fell down the mountain, and what did he do? He asked me to roll for him, and he fell down the mountain.
Yeah.
So, Stuart, what about yourself? Any other board games, anything? I know you're definitely into board games. I was round at yours once, and those board games piled up high.
Oh yeah, aye.
So,
I'm getting this out there very quickly because I know Pierce might choose it next as well. Munchkin. I'm saying this quickly because I know everybody else is thinking it.
Not that I was given the Warhammer version of it, but anyway, tell us about it.
Munchkin. That's just, it's just like your typical. It's like a card. It's like, well, it's not like a card build. It's just like a kind of adventure with an action adventure with cards, but it's got a lot of mechanics in the sense of you start with a human. And there's two decks, one's a door, one's treasure. You kick down the door, whatever reveals there, you've either got to fight it, take the curse, or it might be loot for you, but then you get to take the loot from that room, and then once you've done it, you get to equip it to your guy, and then after that, you pass it on to the next player, and you can have, like, I think a maximum of 8 players? I think it's 8 players
you can have a few.
Yeah, have a few, but it's like, So you can backstab people, you can
Oh
help
yeah,
out people.
let's just point out,
you can-
backstabbing is a big part of the game. So
Well,
it's cheating,
no,
actually.
no, to you.
Yeah,
it
to me,
is.
of course.
But like you can cheat with the cartels. You can cheat. You can barter with people. You can do so many things because the rules are it's so simple, but it's so vague. Like what you can because it will literally say if there's any disputes, who bought the game. He is the person who disputes it.
Yeah,
if
you
you bought the
should.
game, you dispute what happens.
And I think Munchkin's something that all of us in the room today have actually played and thoroughly enjoyed.
Yep.
However, I would say there's certain versions of the game, like, and if you're listening to this and you're interested about it, it is just a bunch of fun. If you want to pass some time with your friends, it is good fun. But there's so many different variations of it now.
You got
name
police,
some, Stuart.
vampiric, zombie, Walking Dead one. I think there's a Marvel one that's got 3 expansions where you get the Infinity Gauntlet and all the gems.
Warhammer
There's a
40K.
Warhammer, there's a 40k one.
I think White Dwarf was giving away free Munchkin cards as well. At some
There
point.
was one. There was one card.
Was.
Yeah. Special edition one.
Just think of anything you can think of. They probably have a version of it somewhere. Even on I don't know. I can't remember what the website's called. If you just type Munchkin, the website comes up right away, and you just see all the variants of different types they've got, and it's absolutely brilliant. And it's not too long as well. It's not too long depending on you play.
Well, I'd say the main advantage to it compared to Warhammer in general, and also especially my choice, Kingdom Death. Kingdom Death is a very complex game to play. I can only play it with DJ because he knows what's going on. I don't know when I play. I go. It's like Dungeons and Dragons. If someone doesn't explain it, you don't know.
You need a dungeon master for it.
Munchkin is a game that you can get the box as long as some people know the rules. You can easily dive straight into, and it doesn't take setup time or anything. Just shuffling the cards, hanging out, and and 8 players can play. Very simple and easy to just get into, and strange things happen. Strange monsters, and generally pretty damn good.
Yeah, really good.
I would say Stuart probably has more editions of that game than the rest of us.
I've actually got 3.
Well, that's more than what I have.
Alright, okay, yeah.
I do just let you buy it. So
the basic and some other weird Munchkin, I can't remember what it's called, and the Marvel Munchkin one, which came with 3 expansions, and then the Deadpool expansion, which thankfully, very nicely, my brother and Lauren got for me. So I was just like, yep, okay, for my birthday, thank you.
Alrighty, well,
do we have the Warhammer one?
we do. I bought it because, of course, it's Warhammer.
Played it once.
Right, yeah.
That was really good. It was really good though.
Yeah, we played it once, and I instantly found it. I was upset because they've added a Primarch, but it was Mortarion and not Magnus.
Was there no Magnus?
There's
I'm
no
sure
Magnus.
there's mention of Magnus.
There's no Magnus.
Of course, because it was based on what do you call it? Because I think Guilliman was in it.
Guilliman's in it, and Mortarion's in it. Magnus is not in it.
It's based on Dark Imperium.
I instantly wanted to go back to the shop and get a refund,
Yeah.
but I thought I'd probably destroy the place as well.
Yeah, that's not good.
So for me, I would say, guys, you've just used the 2 other games that I play regularly at the moment, which is Kingdom Death and Munchkin. But you know what? There's a ton of other games that I really, really do enjoy. So I think one I'm maybe not playing at the moment, but I'd really highly recommend you all check out is the XCOM game.
Oh, yeah.
And the XCOM game is a 4-player game, but it's basically you versus the AI. So you get a tablet, you install the XCOM board game app, and the app basically is against you. And you'll have your turns dictated by the app, etc. But each player takes a sort of like XCOM category or class if you played the XCOM games. And it's your way to kind of stop the alien invasion. But trust me, we played the tutorial game and we all died.
Yeah, we lost pretty fast.
It's a tough game, and each level as you go on and progress, it escalates a little bit too high.
I love how you're also mentioning another game that we traditionally need DJ to help us through.
Yes, yeah.
He usually gets the app downloaded and gets us going in the game.
DJ's a very good game master for us, and he'll probably be on the channel again soon for the battle report. But,
yeah, definitely. Well, yeah.
He's one of our game masters. But I would say it's an absolutely fun game. Really enjoy it. These 2 have just stolen my previous choices, because number 1 would have been Kingdom Death. I absolutely love that game to bits.
Yep.
And Munchkin, well, yeah, I'm not a nice guy in Munchkin. I like to cheat and make sure I backstab as many people as possible.
I'll keep in mind that you've said this about King Death, and definitely say to DJ we're getting our session in very, very soon. It's funny no one mentions zombie sides.
Because I've not played enough of it.
Have you not played enough of it? Have you only played one?
I played 1 game and I enjoyed it, but I would say only 1 game.
Oh, really? I've played quite a few, and that one game I'm pretty sure you guys sacrificed me to
Yeah, we blew you up so you would kill all the zombies.
Yeah, you blew me up.
And it still failed.
And it still failed. You all still failed. But you're like, the only way we're going to kill about 20 zombies is... Because I was holding them back and you were like... We could let, you live, Ross, or we could take out 20 zombies.
No, just before we cut us, I think we can all agree our favourite, not really tabletop really, is Horus Heresy. Not Horus Heresy.
You're going to get there.
The D&D
Dark
one.
Crusade.
Dark Crusade is it
Not Dark
Crusade?
Crusade.
No,
Dark Heresy.
Dark Heresy. That's
Dark Heresy.
I've got there in the end. I nearly got there.
Yeah.
Why don't we call that a board game?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's an RPG kind of.
Yeah.
I think that's our favourite.
We've played that a lot and had some ridiculous moments in that.
Yeah, quite.
Many ridiculous moments.
Well, we did summon the Great Unclean One because I was an idiot.
I told you to shoot him. I told him we should have killed him.
You took.
You also got opened a vent by throwing another player through it.
That's Stuart Ross was referring
So
to.
yes,
Yeah, that is.
Stuart's ways to get through things are some of the most ridiculous answers.
I did have an apron as a cape, so that's what happens.
Okay.
Yep.
And the Unclean One that only got summoned because you took my advice and I told you to exorcise the person, and then that thing appeared.
Yeah, I know, but I really didn't want to exercise him to make the game, go as it was meant to go.
Turned
I
around
wanted to
and I was
exercise
gone.
him to add spice to the game.
It was another player. We should mention it was another player who was possessed. Me and Stuart's answer was execute them. It is a miracle that a greater demon had not, or something had not already came forth from the warp. Dave was like, I think I've got this. David did not have this.
No, I did not have this.
David did not have this.
But I remember, I need to get off topic, so we need to move on. But
Yeah.
when I did summon him, I remember every other player disappears from that, and I'm left having a negotiation session with the Great Unclean One.
David, you did not summon him. That makes it sound like that you achieved something.
Well,
You were trying to prevent the...
as far as I'm concerned, that summoning required a certain dice roll. Doesn't matter if it was pass or fail, it required a dice roll, and I rolled said dice.
No, that was... He rolled it, and
No.
he failed, and you
When
tried to prevent it.
You say failed, I say
When you done
chose
that,
a different way to make the dice go.
You're also a Thousand Sun sorcerer, and as soon as the Great Unclean One appeared, you tried to change forces to make sure he wouldn't destroy you.
No, I tried to, and I didn't get destroyed because I lied to him. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll help you. I was never going to help him. I was going to try and work out how I could summon another greater demon to kill him. But we never got that far in the game.
And just to say, when you summoned this Unclean One after I
I'm
told
glad
you
you're all using the term summon because I did.
yes, summon.
You did not.
I was going to say summon, but I meant X. But you know what I mean. Where was me and Ross at this time? Oh yes, we were 3 miles away in a jeep at high speed, getting the hell out of there. And then as soon as that was when our session finished, and DJ, the dungeon master, went, "Well, that happened."
It did. And I think we'll save our Dark Heresy stories for another time because, again,
We could go on.
that will be hours
That went-
of discussion.
Those went nuts.
So yeah, right, we're going to move on, guys. So we've actually spoke a lot about memories. We actually have, and we probably spoil a lot of our memories, our favourite Warhammer memories for you guys who are listening.
I've got a few.
But that's there we go.
I have something off my chest.
So I think we'll start with Ross. Yeah, if you just want to share with us your favourite sort of Warhammer memory, take it away.
Can I do multiple?
No, do one.
Can I do multiple very quickly?
could
I'm
do-
spending more time debating
You
this
could do
than
multiple
actually...
versions of the one.
No,
I
I'm just
will
going to go
fight
into
you
it.
for
So
this.
there's one again with Eowyn. So this was on the custom tabletop board I was talking about. He parked Tau at the very top, and that's I think when Tau first came out. They were sort of introduced, and he had, I cannot remember the name of the Tau character. I want to say Onshi.
Was he in a tank or is he in a suit?
He had a blade.
That's Oshava.
Oshava. There we go. And he had him next to a tank. Now, I'm not sure this is how the rules worked in 3rd or 4th edition, I think it was, because I think it was 3rd edition with the Black Templar, but don't quote me. And basically, I shot it with a dark lance, like first shot, straight into a dark lance into it, and it blew up and flipped on Oshava.
Yes.
And we were like, what happens when a tank flips onto a cat? We rolled a dice to sort of say, does he get out of the way? And it was like a 1. We're like, well, we can decide that he did not get out of the way. And we went back and forth to go, does he live? Who knows? Like, I'm sure someone might be able to correct us what happens if a tank directly lands in 3rd edition or 4th edition on top of models, and they don't dodge.
I'm going to just challenge the viewers just now. I would love to know that answer, so please do your research, let us know, and put it in the comments.
This will sort of feud between me and Ewan that's 15 years in the making.
Okay, maybe don't answer the question then. Just leave the comments and let them fight it out.
Well, David, I thought you'd be up for me, resolving feuds of 15 years and longer, because I know you've got one with me. But that's another story for
guys. That's another story.
That's another story.
It's not Dr. Phil. Okay,
that's a video game feud. Anyway. Well, I'm just going to go into another one quickly, and it was actually Lord of the Rings game in Warhammer.
Oh yeah, gee,
and it was basically, it had Boromir versus Mordor Captain Cave Troll. We both had might points and everything, and we rolled off to see who would win the fight and who would essentially get to win the other one. All of us, with all our attacks, rolled ones. It was like I rolled 4 ones, you rolled 4 ones, like we could, or 3s, and we could spend might to try and win it. We're like, oh, how's this going to work? I realised I had a lone spearman beside him, and I was like, I'll throw in an extra tap with spearman. He got a 6. It was like, don't worry, right, you can win this one, because even with Boromir, you need 6s to wound me. And there comes the complete roll of 6s, and he was just like, what? The exact moment I need 6s, Boromir, this spearman managed to distract the troll, and Boromir, not managed to win the fight, then takes the weakness and destroys him utterly. It was glorious. I needed 6s and I got them, and trolls are one of the hardest things to fight in sort of, well, back in those days when it came to Lord of the Rings. But a fantastic moment. My opponent instantly not happy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too happy as well when you're kind of like, yeah, it's fine. How many 6s did you just roll?
Exactly.
And it does what?
At the moment you needed them as well. The exact moment. I think the only best moment I can have from that is I once was rolling to save cultists and I got all 6s, and I was like, great. I don't need these cultists, but it's glad that they survived what they then got immediately eliminated. But that was 2 like major moments. I could probably think of a bunch more. There's some great ones with DJ. I'm sure you're going to probably speak about the Necron one, David, so I'll avoid them. But yeah, there's plenty of memories, so I'll stop there before I go on for half an hour.
Stuart, what about yourself? Tell us a Warhammer memory that you have enjoyed.
I'm not great with memories, like talking about that, trying to remember stuff. I just love pointing at the fact is, my favourite memories are always just beating Pierce.
Right. Okay. Well, actually,
wow.
No, I must admit, of everyone that I play, you probably have the highest win ratio. You definitely ought to do.
Yeah, but it's like through sheer luck in the sense of
it doesn't matter. I always
forget the rules, and I just kind of go, I just want to kill everything of his, and then Pierce goes, oh, you do know you've won by points. I was like, oh really? I didn't know that. I was just trying to kill everything you had.
Some to explain, sure, you've not really played in a few years properly.
Oh God, no.
But you've had, I think now, a couple of practice games against us, both me and David.
Yeah.
One against me, one against David, and you beat us both each time.
Yeah, your winning streak is certainly on a hot streak at the moment.
For 8th edition, you're on 100%.
I'll say
3-3.
I'll say now. Somehow you two are pulling punches somewhere.
Oh well, don't worry. I'm sure when David pulls out Magnus, this will be
if I play and I beat Magnus, then I know something is awry.
Every time I play as Magnus, he dies, and every time I face Magnus, no matter what I once threw 2,000 points of Necrons at him, he did not go down. Yeah.
But memory-wise, I do remember the first time ever playing. Oh, what was it? The first. I know. Again, this refers back to when your dad made the
tiered board.
The tiered board.
Yep.
And it was me, you, Ewan, Pierce.
When he's saying Pierce, by the way, guys, he means David.
David, yeah.
Yep.
And
as in me.
DJ was there. I think there was something else, and it was like you had to make either 1,500 points or 2,000 points.
It was going back at least a decade. I'm not going to remember the exact point count of that match.
It was a high point value to the point where basically when I had my turn, I shot. I was like, oh, this is cool. It literally took maybe an hour and a half to get to background to me
to resolve.
It was so long, but that was like my first time ever doing that, and I was like, I don't understand. I think I fell asleep through like one of the turns because I didn't know it took that long.
When you were a lot younger, we didn't quite understand how long each turn would take, so we did organise these big, massive games, and you could be at them for days.
Yeah, because that was the time where basically it was like,
Mum,
you had like
get the Pizza Hut in, please.
Yeah. Because I remember those were times where I had 3 squads, so you got your turns done very quickly. So I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's very fast and quick and stuff like that. Then when you got to a proper full point army, I was just like, oh my god, this takes, not bad way, this takes forever, but you're just like, wow, you don't realise what is what you need to actually do for each of your armies and stuff. But I still really enjoyed it. It was really cool. It's one of my fondest memories of it, and the map was pretty cool that your dad made as well.
Sounds like you're wanting to play some multiplayer games soon, Stuart.
Oh yeah.
Hint, hint.
I take us both on.
Takes both on. Bold words.
Right, thanks for sharing that, Stuart.
I'll bring a second Magnus.
No, there's only one real Magnus. Well, thanks for that, Stuart. Appreciate it. Well, yeah, Ross kind of alluded to one of my favourite memories is definitely, I think it was about 6th edition Warhammer, and it was Necrons versus Dark Elder. And realistically, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it really comes down to one thing. It was no matter how many units I would take out of Ross's Dark Elder, I would equally lose the same on the following turn, and it would go back and forth. But the deciding factor in the whole game was the old style rules where the arcs of your rear of your vehicle and the side of your vehicle and the front of your vehicle. And I know I'm not the only Necron player out there who exploited this. If you did it with me, put it in the comments. But your ghost arcs would have a really tiny rear arc, which you could essentially... It's very hard in a podcast to describe this, but you could kind of put them up in a sort of V formation with the rears touching each other. And you could guarantee that your opponent was only going to get front or side shots, and you could just protect your arc entirely. And see in the old edition when you planted in the middle of the battlefield 2 ghost arcs and your opponent had to try and shift them, it was an absolute nightmare, especially when ghost arcs back then were essentially DACA jets.
My eyes rolled into the back of my skull as soon as you mentioned ghost arcs, and I remember that. Whoa, that was some bad memories.
But I'm actually going to also just chuck another one in, which Ross, you chucked a few in, so I'm allowed to. I'd actually say it's a memory where I was soundly defeated. Like, I mean, crushed.
I hope it was by me.
And it was by you.
Hooray!
And it was, again, this is non-channel. It's when I got my first Tyrannid army, and I think Tyrannids, as a group of friends, was on an unbeaten streak. No one could beat them. We were running our own little mini campaigns, no one could beat them. And Ross's Dark Elder, we did 2,000 points versus 2,000 points. And he was killing so many units where I had to basically hide my entire army in one piece of ruined terrain, because I was too scared that if I came out of cover I would instantly get crushed, and it was just a slow attrition of death. And the reason it's a fond memory for me is it actually showcased how crazy and powerful venom and poison can actually be. And to this day I still fear the day that Ross will bring a Dark Elder army back on the channel and do that venom spam, because it irks me. Maybe like Magnus does to you. If I see venoms, I am going to crumble.
I mean, venoms back in those days, you know, poison weapon was very good against sort of infantry based one. Tyrannids did not have any vehicles, so instantly all the poison weapons works against everything. I didn't need to bring any blasters, I just brought venoms, and you tried to get towards me and you didn't.
Couldn't catch you. It was absolutely crumbling. Crumbling. So guys, we're going to kind of finish off on our last sort of topic, and it's to kind of lead nicely into future podcasts, if I'm to be honest here. So we're a Warhammer channel. We're currently all living within the 8th edition world of Warhammer 40k, and it's kind of a good mix. You've got 2 people on the podcast, myself and Ross, who've been around for previous editions and are currently played quite a lot in this edition. And we're joined kindly by Stuart, who's kind of getting back into the hobby after some time out and is coming back in during the 8th edition. And we kind of just want to ask a really, really important question, which is, how do you find the current state of Warhammer 40k? Be honest. And I will say, Ross, I'm going to cap you to a few minutes. Because you will have a separate podcast.
Wait, I've got a timer. I've got a timer for this. I can timer for this.
Yeah, you'll have a separate podcast to go yourself. But yeah, give us your sort of breakdown.
So overall, I'm going to say, in all honesty, fine. Is one of the easiest editions to understand as a rule set, and I think that's okay. Certainly learning it when there was a transition, it was fine. It was okay. What I would say there is still, and I feel in a lot of senses, the armies in themselves, and many people may disagree with me, as a general sense feel a bit more balanced. Now, many people can generally, there's power play, you know, people who exploit some things can get away with a lot. But I would say compared to 8th, 7th edition, where I remember there was units that could get 2-up invulns rerollable, that was also a very grim time as well. One of the things to say is that because we in the channel, especially me and David, play multiple armies, where the general rules went from being the general rules in this edition are very simple, playing the armies themselves have become a lot more complex. Each unit have their own special rules, you have stratagems to further augment them. Very, very, very difficult. And when you're playing 4 armies, that can be really difficult to keep track of them. Compared to the past where they had universal special rules, that made it a little bit easier just to sort of understand and keep on top of. So in a sense I say this edition, frankly, I think has actually got a little bit more difficult to play in that sense. The other thing I'm not happy about is that your position doesn't matter. Where in the past, you know, if you're facing vehicles, you had the facing and everything, it made it feel more important about where your positioning was to sort of get around your opponent. But equally I can understand that that added a lot of time onto the game, a whole bunch of time, and disputes. The amount of times we fought over ghost arcs is unbelievable. So not having those arguments anymore is actually fantastic. So I still think there's a fine balance between things to sort of get there, but generally as an easy to pick up play, and if you're not playing competitive, I like it. If you are playing competitive, the biggest problem I've got between this edition and maybe 7th is that where 7th you were 2-up rerollable and you couldn't kill anything, the game would continue. This edition, if you really want to win, it can be decided by who goes first. And that is a bit of a problem in itself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll share my views for when it comes to me, but I agree with that sentiment.
Oh, thanks. And I'll cap there because I'll go into each force and everything. No, Ross.
I'm about
to get the gag. I'm going to get the gag.
I'm about to hold up this placard which has Ross's picture painted on it saying "Stop."
Stop. Yep. Okay.
But I'm not going to have to bring it up. So thank you, Ross.
I'm just going to have that meme of Jean-Luc Picard knocking out that guy and just wrestling you to the ground.
So Stuart, man, share with us. So you're kind of getting into the hobby again after some time out. What's your opinion on playing this game, because you stopped at 7th and you're picking up in 8th?
See, I was discussing with Ross a wee while ago. I believe it's 7th. I got back into it a wee while ago, but it's a total different beast.
Yeah,
it's totally different, because when I was talking to you about going back to it, you were like, honestly, the main rules are about 8 pages, and I was like, you're kidding me. I mean, you showed me the rulebook, went, why is it like, was it like an inch thick, the book? And it's like tons of lore, and I was like, well, that's really good, then it means it's going to be very easy to kind of get into the main kind of core of the rules. Which was totally right. It's very easy and manageable to get into, but then when you see the codexes, it does look intimidating, but it's workable. Like I was totally like, yeah, I can actually see myself like building armies. I was terrible at adding up the points and doing all that, but I like it that they give you templates of like, you know, like the formations that you get. Like you have this and you get so many command points to that, and you can add more.
Everything's on a data card of some sort.
Yeah, it's there. It's not hidden behind any other things, or there's like, I say overly complicated like rules. Like I think the most complicated abilities that you get would basically be when you're looking at your main HQ choices. That's where your bulk of your abilities come from.
So when you have like buffs from Space Marines
and
or
all that,
Astronaut giving out commands.
Yeah, you're kind of like, if I want a ton of this stuff, you basically go, right, I need to remember their abilities because they're the ones that can buff my other guys. But your normal units and like your tanks and all that, they basically run standard like kind of like we used to, which is really good. So like, I was like, I can totally get into that. I think the big new change of it was command points. That lost me when I was watching your videos. That totally lost me of how they run, and like their new like abilities that they can add and stuff like re-roll failed rolls to hit if you spend one command point with this unit and stuff. It totally baffled me. But looking at the codexes and actually understanding it, I could see it's a lot. I can see how it's a lot more streamlined.
Streamlined is definitely a key word there.
Because I mean, I think my issue somebody's had was the mechanics of the game, in the sense of like you're saying, like the Ghost Arc, you could do that wee rubbish throw, like, oh yeah, put them in a V formation, and like you got to argue about like the angle and all. It's like that's all out the window now. It's just the vehicle's there, that's it. You hit it. It doesn't have like armor values in left, right, and center or whatever. It's just this is its wounds. Get it down, you explode. There you go. That's easier, and it's not like based. It's more like what was it? like that was a perfect example. Was a Ghost Star. It was like how many guns is on one side do you get to fire, and you had to measure from the gun
and the arc and all that.
And the arc and all that. Yeah, like there was so much you had to measure, and there was like about 10 minutes of measuring before you actually started to roll for your dice. Now it's just, hey look, 24 inches, measure it, cool, you're alright. If it's anywhere near it, from the base to base, cool, no bother. Roll your dice, C to hit, C to wound, cover your saves, everything. It's a lot easier to get into, and I enjoy that. I think it's a lot better. Now, I think cover as well. Yeah. I used to love cover, but when I used to play it, everyone's like, you don't need to use cover, it's fine. But now cover's got a bit more significance to it.
And it's so simpler, it's just one rule for it. It's plus one.
One thing I would say on that one is, it depends what force you're playing. In Sims Edition, because cover gave a better armour save than Dark Elder had, it was very important. But if you played Space Marines, cover really meant not very much, because you didn't get any improvement to armor save. Now it universally helps all armors.
Yeah, like even your Space Marines, like you can have like a 4-up save, but if you're behind cover now, it's a 3-up save now to you, or
it's +1.
Well, +1, so like so it'd be a 2-up save for them, so it can be really, really beneficial to them.
Alright, thank you, Stuart. And I think you've kind of touched on some really good points there, as the whole maybe simplicity piece for a new player coming back into the game. And I agree, and I think both of you have raised some really good points, and I agree with all your points. I would say for me, the current state of Warhammer 40k, I do enjoy the element that I've got an ability to roll more dice than I ever have before, because there's a good feeling of rolling lots of dice. Let's not kid ourselves. We play tabletop games to roll dice. And that's certainly now, you feel like, for example, when you shoot a massive Gatling gun, you feel the dice is a good representation of what that experience would be. For me, however, I do also want to touch on the advertisement of it's going to be a simpler game. The core rules are definitely a simpler game, which you're covering, like your cover, your how to wound, how to hit. It is a simpler game. However, the one thing that's convoluted it for me is the plethora of special rules that impact a dice roll. And I think GW is actually doing some really great work on actually changing that. So, to take a really good example, Chapter Master before was reroll all failed hits. So you're doing your rerolls whilst trying to do the math behind factoring and when the modifiers kick in and what you can and cannot reroll. Now they've changed it to just reroll all hits. Now what that does is that eliminates you trying to work out the whole modifier factor. These are things which a player, sometimes it can take a bit of enjoyment out of the game, it can leech it out a little bit, because we're wanting the game to flow as much as it possibly can. When you're having to stop, start and refer back to books, which was a plague in 7th, it impacts the flow of that game and makes it less enjoyable. So that's the biggest gripe I have in the current state of Warhammer 40k, but GW are addressing it.
Just to add to yours very quickly, that was one I remember that I had the most problem with, was the wind rolls.
In 7th edition, because you had to refer to the chart.
Because you showed me the chart, as in the chart that had so many numbers, it was like, I couldn't remember, and I had to always look at you or Ross to figure out what my... And you guys got it like that. I was just an idiot and went, I don't know how
But the new one, how simple.
New one. But that's the funny thing, because I'm trying to refer back to the old chart, I'm kind of going, wait, win to 5, it's going to be double your... because the strength of your weapon against the toughness of the person you're hitting. If it's less... If it's not double, if you're double the toughness of it, it's harder to hit, so it'll be like a 6-up.
Don't worry about it, Stuart. You'll get it.
I've totally got it. I totally have. I swear I've got it.
But
like, it's a lot simpler and a lot easier now.
So again, that the simplicity is there. I would just want to finish on one sort of comment with the current state of Warhammer 40k. The biggest issue I really, truly have is nothing to do with the core game itself. I'm a big fan of the story behind the hobby. A big fan of what's currently happening in the lore and how it's progressing. And I need to be perfectly honest, I'm very disappointed in the current lore. So obviously after your Warzone book franchise, which was your Warzone Fenris, etc., and your Arcadia, etc., they were a new thing to 7th edition, which was really enjoyable. I loved the escalation of it. And running into 8th edition was meant to be a continuation of that. However, the stories now feel very one-sided. You don't really have a good equal representation of good versus evil, evil's winning or good's winning, and that's the biggest issue I sort of have with current state of Warhammer 40k. I mean, I don't say Warhammer 40k as in the tabletop rules, I mean the whole thing.
But the books and stuff.
The books, the stories, and I feel we have a bit of work to do, which I do feel we will address. And but I know it's a common consensus amongst other people as well that some things have to be done there. But I think on that note, guys, we're going to bring it to an abrupt close. We've got so many more topics we're going to now expand into, looking at individual sort of things like armies, codexes, certain elements of the hobby in general, and maybe some other wee additional things which tag along to that.
If people have suggestions.
If they have suggestions, I know for a fact maybe looking at some Warhammer video games, because there's some classic stories we have to share there, that's for sure.
Dawn of War.
Yeah, we'll come on to that. But yeah, thank you for listening to us, guys, those who have stayed for over the hour today. And we want to be doing more of these podcasts, so as always, comment, share, like and subscribe. Please share your thoughts on this format down below. We want to know what you guys think of if you want to see more of these. A special thanks to our guests today. We have Ross and we have Stuart. And I've been your host, David. We'll have more guests as we go. But guys, thanks very much, and we hope to see you in another one of our Tabletop Assault Battle Reports.